Us from New York City tonight. Joe, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Caitlin. Nice to be with you again.
Now, first I want to congratulate you on your primary victory. That must have been a big night for you.
Oh, it was. How about 2 hours of sleep, having to run down at 6:30 in the morning for Fox, and then doing 12 radio shows and 8 TV shows. But you know what? When you win, everything is tolerable, I guess, you know?
Right, exactly. You got the big thing behind you. You got the votes that you needed to secure the line.
Well, we did something very important. Don't forget, we now have united the opposition parties, so now we've got a highly competitive race that I believe is winnable, and I'm going to demonstrate that in the next couple of weeks very readily.
And now I want to start out with this. You're running both on the conservative line and the Republican line. You now have two gubernatorial candidates that you have to choose from. You have Carl Palladino, who secured the Republican nomination, and Rick Lazio, who to this point is still running on the conservative line. Who will you be endorsing?
You know what? They have had their day in court, and the people have spoken. This is going to be a race that's going to be difficult enough. I think they have to, pursue their agenda, and I've got to pursue mine. Obviously, I will have the support of the Republican Party, and how things pan out in terms of tickets, I'm not sure yet. Things are quite confused in New York State, as you can imagine, but I'm happy that I was able to bring together the two major party lines, conservative and Republican, because now we have a good opportunity to take at least one of the seats back. I hope we take both back, Senate seats, but I know that my target, Kirsten Gillibrand, is very vulnerable right now, and in the environment that we are working in, you saw what's happened in Delaware, you saw what's happened in Pennsylvania with All Inspector, and Utah with Senator Bennett. Everything's up for grabs. People are upset. It's not just the Tea Party people. And Tea Parties are not a structured party, as you know. It's a facility for people that are really angry to make their voices known. But I see this among all party constituents, whether it's conservative, Democrat, Republican. They're upset. They're upset with the lack of jobs. They're upset with the lack of leadership where they can kind of feel good about where America's going. And it gets back to why I won. We're spending money we don't have. We're, borrowing from countries like China that don't share our values. And we're putting the American dream in jeopardy, and that scares a lot of people.
Well, I think Carl Palladino's victory was certainly embodied in that landslide. He really won by a number of points, very surprising to some people. But are you going to support him? Is he a candidate that you're proud to run with, and can you get behind him?
Well, if he's the Republican Party candidate, you can be sure that we'll be working together, but we may not be joined at the hip. I have a tough enough race with respect to taking a seat back into the Republican fold in a state that has a registration of over 2-to-1 in Democrats versus Republicans. But you know what? That's how I got involved in politics. In my district, back in the lower part of Westchester County, I had a 4-to-1 Democrat versus Republican registration. So I think I know how to deal with that by reaching directly to the people. Don't forget, I'm the people's candidate. I came out of the convention and I did not get enough of the votes to be automatically put on the primary ballot. I had to go and get 25,000 plus signatures. I only needed 15, but I wanted to be sure I did it. And then I went against the hand-picked candidates of the party. Two factions of the party, and managed to survive that. So you might say that I'm the people's candidate, and I think that's what plays very well right now. Kirsten Gillibrand is not the people's candidate, I can assure you. She's voting lockstep with Obama. She's tied in, and she's tied to the hip with the Obama administration, voting for huge, costly pieces of legislation, whether it's the health care bill that did nothing to reduce the cost of health care, or the Wall Street financial regulation bill, which said nothing about deficit reduction or how we deal with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. This is going to be a hotly contested debate, and I'm ready for it.
Well, it's funny you bring up her being in lockstep with Obama, because her latest campaign ad, she really paints herself as a Washington outsider, someone who's coming in and making a difference, and we'll actually play that ad for you right now.
Sure.
I've been in Washington long, but I've been there long enough to know that things are broken. That's why I've made transparency and accountability a top priority. I was the first member of Congress to post my official schedule, personal financial disclosures, and the taxpayer money I request for New York on the internet. And I took on my own party to end automatic pay raises for Congress. I'm Kirsten Gillibrand, and I approve this message because people who work for a living can't raise their own pay, and Congress shouldn't either.
What do you think about that ad, Joe? What does that say to you?
Well, it tells me that she's got pretty good people writing her script, but that's not the Kirsten Gillibrand that we all know. Otherwise, she would not be in the vulnerable position she is. Her elect, you can't say re-elect in her case because she hasn't been elected to the Senate yet, is 38%. When you get down to 45, you get nervous. 40, you have to really be concerned. She's at 38. What does that tell you? That tells you is that what she's saying, she's not doing. Okay? And when she talks about transparency, come on. I'm the one that is a certified public accountant. Transparency, objectivity, independence, those are the things that CPAs are raised with. That's what they practice with every day. And I'm dropping the $63 trillion bomb on Americans, especially those in New York. Why? Because she's lying with Obama that the debt is only $13.6 trillion. That's the bonded debt. That's Treasury bills, Treasury notes, and 40% of that is in the Social Security Trust Fund because we took that money out a long time ago and spent it on other things. So there's a Ponzi scheme right there. But you got to add actuarially computed liabilities for Social Security and Medicare for those working and retired that earn benefits. That's another $45 trillion. And that's not even on the books. And what about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and the Pension Benefit Guaranty Corporation, the Post Office, the Farm Credit System? You know, 20 entities that are like these Enron special purpose entities, all off the books. And yet they float bonds when they have deficits. And that's another $5 trillion. And we're not finished. How about military pensions, civil service pensions? Added up, $63 trillion, and she's telling you she's transparent. Come on. Let me give her the transparency test. Kirsten, I would like to have 12 debates with you. You want to be transparent? Come to the table, and let's now go toe-to-toe in a nice way, and let's talk about the real issues and what our stands are on them, and let the people see us without the manufactured consultants writing our scripts.
Yeah, 12 debates, that's quite a few. What would you really bring up in those debates? What are the points that you want to hammer home there? That's a lot of debating, Joe.
Well, listen, this is a very important election. You're dealing with one of the 100 most powerful people in the United States of America. I think if we want transparency, you want the people to really see your elected representative that's going to be someone who can potentially stop the legislative process like Jim Bunning did, that I expect to do at least momentarily. I don't want to stop government, but I can assure you that Kirsten Gillibrand, who has voted to raise the debt ceiling twice, she's only been there less than 2 years, and the last time, 5 months ago, she raised it $1.9 trillion. Why did we give the Obama administration a free ride for over a year when they told us they were going to spend in excess of what we're raising, $1.5 trillion? What would Joe DioGuardi do? I would bring that bill up every month. I would stop the legislative process until the CBO director, Congressional Budget Office, the OMB director, the Office of Management and Budget came to the Senate floor and told us, what do you need the money for this month? You need $100 billion? Share the pain of the American people. Let's keep spending on a short leash. And I would do that every month. No one's going to get $1.9 trillion or anywhere close to that. We need to see what it is that government is spending that money on.
Well, now you're criticizing her record, but she most recently took a dig at you, saying that you supported the Bush tax cuts and that you would continue to do so if elected. What's your stance there? Are you in support of tax cuts for very wealthy Americans?
You can't characterize it that way, Caitlin. The issue now is we're in an economy and we don't know where it's going. There are economists that think we're going to go for a double dip. There are some Cassandras like Mr. Rubini who say, you know what, this is going to get worse before it gets better. How could we even think about raising taxes on anybody? And by the way, those wealthy you're talking about, many of them are small business owners that pay their taxes in what they call a subchapter S. It's like a partnership, so it comes through their individual returns. But these are the people who create the jobs. My feeling is we have to give the benefit of the doubt to job creation and not impose any further tax increases on anybody until we see where we're going. And I hope in a year or two we'll have a better feel for that.
How do you hammer home that message to New Yorkers with only a month and a half left until the general election? You really spent a lot of your time and energy on the primary election, which you came out successful, but now you don't have that much time to really get all of these points across to people who are going to be voting.
Caitlin, you don't know my level of energy. You remember what my daughter, Kara said early on Fox? We never appear together. I don't want to get involved in politics. And they asked her that question about her dad, and she said, hey, I love my dad, and by the way, when he's working, he's like Superman. That young lady saw me working, earning my way into Congress the first time when everybody said he has no chance to be elected in this liberal Democratic district as a conservative Republican, and we did it. It wasn't easy. I believe I have that kind of energy and enthusiasm and optimism that the people will be engaged by me immediately, and I've been doing it today before we came here. Obviously, we have to raise money. I got to be competitive. But do I need as much money as Kirsten Gillibrand? No. She doesn't have a message. I have a great message. I'm the first practicing CPA, certified public accountant, ever elected to government. She's the 57th attorney in the Senate out of 100. Do you think you need another attorney? How about the first practicing CPA in the Senate so we can figure out what government is really spending? So I think she knows she's in trouble. She's got to raise a lot of money. Now, is money important? Yes. But hey, Mr. Corzine spent $100 million, and he lost to Governor Christie, who spent $5 million. So I think that you need to have the message, you need to have some money, but you got to be someone who has the fire in the belly like I do, and who's willing to get out there, shake hands, meet the people, have 12 debates if I have to, and then we'll have a very legitimate election that I believe I will win.
Well, then I certainly expect we'll be seeing a lot more of you in the coming month and a half. Joe DioGuardi, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.